Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I've got the special blue and black tie on, which means it's a special time of year, or a special time of the month. I don't know how often these are going to be. Anyway, it is time for the second Cressminster Raptor Den Poké show. Now, for those of you that don't know what a Cressminster was, this is the second one we're doing. It's based around Cresselia. Well, the logo is based around Cresselia, and Cresselia was the first Pokemon that I did this with. But I set up a channel in the Discord for you guys to submit your entrances for it, the catches during the release week of a new Pokemon, and then I'm coming back around to it and ranking and reviewing all the Pokemon that you guys submitted. Now, I was expecting that Happini would be especially difficult, just because, you know, I was thinking there would be a lot of entrances, because it'd be a lot easier to catch them, a lot more people would be submitting them, there'd be a lot more potential submissions, you know? But that ended up counterintuitively. You guys actually sent in less Happini than you caught for Cresselia. And I think that part of that is that Cresselia was a legend. It's big. You also only caught maybe a few, so I think everybody just posted like every single Cresselia that they caught in there, and it got way more engagement. But you guys still went pretty hard for this one, but I was expecting there to be more submissions to filter through. So even though I originally was intending to not include every single Happini you guys sent in, I did it with all the Cresselias, and there were less Happinis to go over than the Cresselia, so I was like, I may as well go over all of them again. Now, this one was a bit more difficult in its own ways. It presented its own unique challenges, because Happini being an ingredient specialist, I found it very difficult to rank if it was good, bad, or what. Most of the ones that you guys sent in, you actually thought were good, because no one wanted to submit in just like meh entrances, likely because it's a very common Pokemon. So you probably didn't think twice of it and just transferred them. But you only sent in really at least somewhat decent stuff. Every single one that a few of you sent in bad Pokemon, I will say that. But until I get to the specific dishonorable mention portion, pretty much every single one of them has got something going for them and is worth at least holding on to. Maybe not using right away, because, you know, a part of the conversation is about ingredient list, and is it viable within a certain ingredient list, and that's always a consideration. Now, to get actually into this Raptor Den Poké show, I want to start this off by showing off the AAB Hapini that you all submitted this time around. So there were a couple of them. I have 7 here, and okay, just 7. Just 7 that I submitted, or that you guys submitted, so that I put on here. Now, AAB Hapini is very interesting because it's got particularly good synergy with the new salad that was just released, the Pedal Dance, I believe it was, the weaker of the two salads. So it might be able to do some decent things if you get it to level 60 for good ratios on that meal in particular. Especially, I think it was able to synergize with Blastoise, if I'm remembering correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but either way, it covers 2 of the ingredients, and it covers them in a pretty decent ratio. So I think it's got something interesting going for it, but if you don't have a team around that, then I'd say just hold it until you might be able to do something better with it. But these, I think, are decent ABA options if an ABA list is going to be worth it for you, if that's an investment for you. Khalife, I see you sent in... Oh, wait, I just realized I put the same Pokemon on here twice. So there are actually only 6 Pokemon here, because somehow I accidentally included a dupe. Anyway, Khalife sent in 2. So, a lot of decent ABA options here. Like I said, they're all alright. Then AAC. Now, this also has some synergy with... There's a particular dessert. I think it used to be one of the top desserts in the game, if not the absolute top. So it's also an interesting one potentially for that, but I think the AAX Hapini, the best usage for them right now is probably just to get the eggs, because the ratios are kind of off for the meals that they are. If there's eventually a meal added that uses those ingredients in the right ratios, then maybe it'd be worth consideration. Or if you already have the team that can make the rest of that other meal. I think this is actually the one that synergizes with Blastoise, if I remember correctly. Then maybe you then level it all the way up to 60. But I think an AAX option is always a decent option for a temp invest for eggs. And like I said, all of these ones were decent. Now, we did have more submissions. I will say this. I did pull out a best in show from each category. So this wasn't all of the Hapinis that we had, or all of the ABAs. There's one more. And there's one more AAC that is not in this one. But 3 of them were sent in. They're all pretty decent. This one here has double ingredient finding. This one here has helping speed M, help speed S, ingredient finding S and help speed S, sub-skill seedable. Except for ingredient finding is not, because it's locked behind a level 100, but it's got a modest nature, so that kind of counteracts that. You can't sub-skill seed that. And then this one's just got ingredient finding and helping bonus. So, decent options here if you ever can make good use of the AAC list. Otherwise, you can keep them at level 50, at level 30, and just use them for the eggs and eggs alone until you get something better. Now, AAB, very similar story, but it's even worse for AAB because the one meal that has the good synergy between eggs and potatoes it's better in an ABA list, in my opinion, because the ratio's closer. But they still kind of can do that if it's your only option, but I think it's best to try and keep them for that egg productivity, unless one day they add another meal that uses these ratios a bit better, or if you just really need the potatoes for some reason. But these 4, all pretty decent options, like I said. You guys didn't really hold back in which Hapini, which Hapini you guys sent in. They were all pretty decent. Like I said, you'll see a lot of ingredient finding M, a lot of help speed S, or sub-skill seedable things, a lot of speed or ingredient finding up natures. I will move my face a little bit so you can actually see this name down here. Iconic Mine, EST. Thank you for sending in your Hapinis. Now, potato Hapinis are particularly interesting if you need a potato farmer. Potatoes are on a lot of Pokemon in this game, at least in my experience. They're on, like, a bunch of ingredient specialists, and I personally have caught a bunch of them. So, I would not be that interested to see any of these Hapinis, because these ones are great at potato farming, which, if you need a potato farmer, it can serve that purpose, especially if you have something else for eggs, like an Abomasnow or a Delibird already covering it. Now, a lot of you guys sent in pretty great potato options. I think, aside from the true mono options, I think these were the most abundant. But ABB options, quite a bit. And like I said, all of these ones are pretty decent potato options, if you see them. I'm not saying go out and invest. I'm saying if you need a potato option, this might be it's worth consideration, because all of them that were sent in, or at least had something going for them. Now, I'm also covering the full mixed Hapinis, and there were a few of these that were sent in, which I think were interesting. ABC really doesn't have much going for it right now, so it's kind of in that spot like my ABC Fuecoco, where I would say don't transfer it, because if you have a good option of it, if they ever do release a meal that has a great synergy with that, then maybe one day you'll invest it. Maybe one day you'll be able to make good usage out of those ingredients. That nice synergy. But as of right now, you're not going to necessarily get good usage out of leveling it, even in the slightest. Because if you're trying to use it for the B ingredient, you want it to be level 60. But if you get to level 60, it'll hurt that. If you want to use it for the A ingredient, then ABC also doesn't work. Really, if you're making an ABC list, you want it to be something that has at least good synergy between at least the B and the C ingredients. And as of right now, potatoes and honey don't have the best of synergy. And eggs don't really add much on there. So all these ones, they're decent options, once again, but they're decent if you can make good use of an ABC list, which nobody, I don't think, really can make good use of an ABC list right now. So hold on to them in case one day they adjust things. That's what I would say about these. Except for maybe this one. Well, maybe this one even. It's decent. There's interesting things going on there. Anyway, and then finally we get to the one that was by far the most submitted, which was the Monolist. You guys love your Monolists. The community loves their Monolist. I understand why. Even though I have some personal problems with the way the mono ingredient meta is so heavily pushed, I do respect and understand the strength in a Monolist. It is a very powerful combo, so I understand why this is something that is valued. And I actually had to spread them across 2 separate slides because you guys sent in so many submissions of the Monolist Hapini specifically. So these are just some of them that you guys sent in. If you see them here, like I said, they're at least worth consideration. Not saying that they're the best or that you should invest long term, but they're worth consideration running through Rain on X, figuring out how much they're going to do for you. Same with all of these ones. They're all pretty decent. Thank you to everyone who sent them in. It's all right. Now, we've gotten through all of those. First, let's get to the dishonorable mentions. So these are the worst Hapinis that were sent in. And you'll see one thing that's very common amongst all 3, in my opinion. Ingredient down, and ingredient down. And interestingly, 2 of them have main skill chance up. Like, they wanted to be a skill specialist. This one really wanted to be a skill specialist. That it completely just forgot its identity. It even had a good mono list. I'm so sorry, Sonja, because you had 2 of these that I put in here. So, this one kind of also wanted to forget its specialty and wanted to be more of a berry finder. Which is interesting because it also had a mono list. So, I find it interesting that some of the worst ones that showed up are all mono list Hapinis as far as stats go. So, they just kind of forgot who they were. This one even has ingredient finding M. This one, if you were to flip it, honestly, if you were just to flip this middle one upside down completely, flip its nature, flip its sub-skills, it'd be perfect. Almost perfect. But unfortunately, there's no way to do that. So, I'm so sorry, Sonja. But I'm so sorry to the 3 of you that submitted this. They kind of suck. So, next, we're getting into the more weird situations, so the ones that I pulled from the rest of them because they weren't necessarily the worst Pokemon in the world. Maybe they weren't the best at what they're doing, but these ones were the wannabe healers that I called them. These are ones that you guys liked this subgenre of Chansey Blissey because a lot of people like to see how its main skill is interesting with being energy for everyone, and a lot of you guys had these examples of where they just wanted to, like, proc their main skill, although I'm realizing that some of these shouldn't really fit in this category. I think this one is supposed to go in a wannabe berry specialist one, and I got it swapped up, so you get to see one category in the future. But a lot of these have, like, the skill triggers, have some berry finding for these later ones. Actually, this is a later slide. Ignore these last 3. But these ones all want to be skill trigger focused. They all want to proc the main skill, which is alright. But they need to be doing what they're trying to do first. So none of these are all that great of Pokemon. None of these are all that great of Pokemon, but they're worth mentioning because I think it's kind of an interesting subgenre of Pokemon to submit. Now, notable mentions as well. Shiny. We had 1 shiny submission. Congrats to Dizzy. This is a pretty cool... It's one of the coolest shinies, and you know what? If you need an ABA option, which I do think ABA has some interesting synergy, then it's actually a pretty decent one. It's got ingredient finding up. It's got help speed M, well, if you sub-skill seed it, and ingredient finding M, which is already there. Honestly, you don't even need to sub-skill seed this help speed. It would be pretty decent even just with that, with the ingredient finding nature. So, it could probably cover your needs if you run the ABA. As long as you make good use out of that list, I think this is a pretty solid option, and it is a shiny, which is always fun. I definitely would be trying to get the ribbon on this thing, because shiny Blissey, not as cool as shiny Chansey, and that, if you have a shiny Chansey, just leave it a Chansey, get the ribbon. It's technically even better than the Blissey once you get it to 2,000 hours, so if you evolve a shiny Chansey, I am so sorry for your loss. Next one, here are the berry finding S ones that I was showing earlier. Actually, I think a few of them probably should have gone in here as well. Wait, no. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting some of the categories that I came up with. These ones are ones that are nice because they're minimizing opportunity cost by having berry finding S and or helping bonus to counteract the negative side effects of what they're trying to do. So, when it comes to ingredient finders, what berry finding S really does is it doesn't make the Pokemon better at what it's doing, but realistically, what would you do otherwise? So if you have a stronger ingredient specialist, that is taking up that slot for less time because it produces more ingredients, then the only real value that you get out of that is you can swap it off the team quicker, or you don't have to run it as long. And then you swap on a berry specialist. Well, if an ingredient specialist has berry finding S, then theoretically, it's kind of better if it can still do what it's trying to do, because you're decreasing the opportunity cost of running it over another berry specialist, because it's still producing a decent amount of berries. Now, these ones are ones that are still semi-decent at what they're trying to do. This one in the middle having an ingredient finding up nature, these other two having ingredient finding and help speed, while also having berry finding S. I especially like the one in the middle, having both berry finding S and helping bonus. Definitely worth consideration if you can make good usage out of their lists. And Flex, this one also having a lot of skill triggers is pretty nice as a Happiny that also produces berries, and then the ingredients, and as a monolist. I think this is a very powerful option that is worth consideration. This one is one that just is really good at ingredient finding, and then also has the extra triggers, which I wanted to bring attention to. Even though we had some that were earlier that were very trigger focused, those ones were kind of missing out on the ingredient finding aspect of it. This one, unfortunately, is an AAB list, which, like I said, I think right now is probably one of the worst lists, right up there. But it's gonna work best, probably level 50, just for that extra triggers. I wouldn't invest seeds unless you were just a Mega Whale and have a boatload of seeds. But it's an interesting Pokemon nonetheless. This guy is just confused. It's got the right ingredient list. It wants to be a skill specialist in the skills, but then it doesn't want to be a skill specialist in the nature. And then it kind of remembered that it's supposed to be an ingredient specialist. Like, I don't know what's going on here. If it had more going on in the sub-skills, I just wanted to bring attention to it. Thank you to SPB314 for sending this one on in, because I saw this one and it just kind of gave me a chuckle. Because it really just has no clue if it wants to do skills or if it wants to do ingredients. Because its nature would definitely lead ingredients, its ingredient list would definitely lead ingredients, and yet its sub-skills would heavily lean towards skills. So I just think this one's funny. Now these ones are ones that are what I call way too late, of maybe okay at level 100 for whatever they're trying to do. This one probably should just get transferred, just because it's... Well, both of these I'd probably transfer. I would transfer them, because you're not going to invest them that far. You'll catch something better before they get to that point. But it's that whole concept of, if you just flipped it, it'd be a lot better. Now, this first one's not as significant. There's the one that Sonjia submitted, but this one that Zackle8502 sent in is just extra interesting, because if it was flipped, these sub-skills would be pretty gorgeous, but it's not. So it's also got an ABC list, though, so it's not that disappointing. Now, we're finally getting to the ones that I classified as best in show. Now, best in show isn't going to work the same way that it worked with the other ones, because I felt wrong trying to classify ingredient list up against another ingredient list, because realistically, different ingredient lists on Happini are going to be doing different things. So I classified it as, I took one from each ingredient list, two from one of them, because I thought it wasn't, I thought there were two that were basically the same in strength, so I didn't actually rank one from that. But I have one from each subcategory of Happini from all the different list types. And let's start out with the ABA list. This one here, sent in by deadline number 2100, has the ABA list. It's the best ABA Hapini that I saw, going through them all. Helping bonus, ingredient finding in the nature, and then eventually help speed S to be sub-skill seedable. This thing's pretty great if you're looking for an ABA list. AAC, we have this one sent in by Chaz. Now, AAC was a bit more restrictive in how many submissions there were, but this one's still a pretty solid one if you're willing to sub-skill seed it. It's got some extra triggers, which is pretty nice with such a good main skill, but it's got the sub-skill seedable, ingredient finding S, help speed S, and even helping bonus at level 50, which you know that I'm always a fan of helping bonus on these Pokemon. As far as AAB goes, I am going to apologize. I don't know how to pronounce this name. I don't even know what language it is. Probably Japanese, but either way, I don't know what language it is and I don't know how to read it. But Thanks for sending this one on in, because my goodness, this is a pretty solid AAB Hapini. It doesn't have that, helping bonus that I'd really be looking for, and it gets way, way better at level 100. But even just having this much speed, ingredient finding S, and ingredient finding up main skill, or ingredient finding up nature, is going to make it pretty good. Again, AAB was one that I didn't have very many options to pull from, so that's why this one's got a little lower quality than some of the other ones. Now, as far as mixed list goes, my goodness, this is like almost pretty much everything you want in a Happini. Kami, hold on to this thing for eternity. Even if they ever one day add a meal that takes eggs, potatoes, and honey, this thing's gonna be just amazing for that purpose, that meal specifically. I doubt it'll ever happen, but this is your version of my Fue Coco, because my goodness, this thing is near perfect. Now, as far as Potato Hapini goes, I gave it to this one sent in by Medici. It's got some skill triggers on it. Ingredient finding and help speed, all sub-skill seedable. Unfortunately, it's going to be a very hefty invest. But if you're taking it from the framework of being able to sub-skill seed, which many of you guys are out there, maybe not everybody, but I don't know if you are Medici, but if you are able to, then this is definitely the best Potato Hapini that was sent in. Just having that combo of ingredient finding and help speed with the ingredient finding up nature is phenomenal, and the skill triggers added on also pretty nice. And then as far as the best egg Hapinis go, this is the one where I gave it to two of them because I didn't really know how to rate them. This first one is probably the best for just producing raw eggs, having the ingredient finding, having the help speed, having some extra triggers, which is always pretty nice in this one, with the speed of help up nature. Now, this one on the right here doesn't actually have any ingredient finding in the sub-skills, but having that helping bonus with the extra inventory add-on, pretty nice if you're able to keep it as a chansey. And then that help speed S, which is sub-skill seedable again, making it significantly nicer. With the ingredient finding up nature. If it didn't have the nature, I wouldn't even consider it for this. But that helping bonus is just so powerful that I felt like I had to mention it. So, congrats to Slovo and the Ginger for having some of the best Hapinis that I saw entered throughout the course of the event. Anyway, that's pretty much everything for it. Going over all your guys' Hapinis, it was pretty difficult to categorize all these, figure out how I was going to sort this, so a lot of effort and work was put into this video. If you have enjoyed this Cressminster, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Down in the description, I'll have a link to join the Discord. Be sure to be in there so that you won't miss the next Cressminster. I'm planning to set up a channel already for Murkrow for next week so that you guys can start submitting on that one. Because I do want to do this again for all the Pokemon that are getting added. So, yeah. Feel free to click the join button if you want to support the channel in that way. A huge thank you to all my members. The support means a lot to me. The options there if you are financially capable of doing so and wanting to support the channel in that way. But there's no pay rewards. It's just an option to show your support. And as always, I thank you all for watching and hope that you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.